All right. About 6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call to order the August 7th meeting of the Weld RE5J Board of Education order. If you take a moment, silence your cell phones and rise and join me in the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Diagana, would you please call?
Monica Johnson? Here. Amanda Proctor? Here. Kate Sassano?
Here.
Amy Musgrave is excused. Michael Whip?
Here. Are there any changes to this evening's agenda? I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Proctor to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, well, you will move on to citizen comments.
No comment.
All right, rocking and rolling here. Let's do some staff and student celebrations. Superintendent Nielsen.
Thanks, President Hales and board members. August 7th, we were just talking about it just a second ago. It's hard to believe it's August 7th and that school starts in just a couple of days. But always an exciting time in a school district, as we think of bringing our buildings back to life. But as I think back on since our last meeting, we had to have a very productive retreat with all the leaders in the district, all the principals and all the leaders from this building. Spent 2 days together and talked a lot about data, talked a lot about, and data, we looked at attendance, we looked at how we were doing academic, we looked at what the feedback was from our staff, and spent time then as leaders, as teams, talking about what that meant, what some of our action steps were, and as we move into the school accountability timeframe, they will come forward and talk with you about some of what they're looking for. But it was a celebration because as they got to see some of the data that had come in at that time, and we're still a couple of days away from the actual growth number. I think next week we should actually see on CMAS what the growth looks like. But as we talked about earlier, the summer things look good. So it was a celebration with work, and that's a good kind of celebration, right? When you know there's work, but at least the work you're doing is creating some positive energy. Staff is back. Yesterday was the first day for all of our staff, but we had new staff start induction last Thursday, Friday, and of course they were back Monday doing induction. And so it's been nice to see. I was out at Roosevelt 2 different times today, and to see all of our staff in trainings over there, and it starts to bring this environment back to life. Of course, it comes back to life fully when the kids come back this week. And then as we look forward, as we have Beef and Bean Day this Saturday, so just a reminder, if you want to come out, we will have a bus, and there'll be some of us who are walking in the parade. And then we plan to have a few of us that will be at the I call it the fest grounds, but the grounds over here most of the day, really just a meet and greet. And our plan is we're going to show off the exchange. We're not going to do a lot of selling at the exchange because we have our own event the following week. We're going to advertise for our event the following week, but then be there to talk about, and we're also going to have the designs, the pictures, if you will, of RMS, so people can start to get excited about what RMS will look like. And so that's the plan for Beef and Bean Day on our side this year. So if you're able to come out either for the parade or for part of the meet and greet, whatever, we'd love to have you. I think for me, a reminder that we do our kickoff with the whole staff tomorrow morning. Invite you to come by for that or for any part of tomorrow if you'd like to. We'll really kick things off. We got a little breakfast, get to talk to each other, and we'll kick things off 15 tomorrow. So if you're able to come by, we'd love to have you. And then we've got a pretty rigorous set of professional development opportunities for teachers and staff as they move through tomorrow. So we will be sharing some pretty exciting pictures about some of the buildings. So that's a kind of a cool part of tomorrow, is to be able to celebrate the custodians, and we've got some pretty stark pictures to show. The before and after are pretty interesting. So,
Everyone loves the before and after.
Do we have a sneak peek?
I don't have a sneak peek.
Dang it. Let's get
We'll
HGTV out there.
We'll figure out how to share
Yeah.
it with everybody. And that I think is a good place for me to stop with sessions tonight.
Any questions or additions? All right, thank you. Let's move on to reports and comments from board members.
I'll just start and go down the line. I just wanted to first thank all the admin staff who I know has worked over the summer, and then all of our teachers that I know go back to school way before their first day of going back to school. So being a daughter of a teacher, you know how much work goes into them preparing and prepping their classrooms. And I just really appreciate that. I appreciate their attention to detail. So thank you for all of the staff for being so dedicated. And then just as far as reports, we had the opportunity to tour the middle school, and it always feels like a new building because we try to go once a month, and every time we go, it's so different than the previous month with all the work that's being done. So I just keep trying to hype that up in the community, that this is going to be such an amazing building, such a great asset, and so different, I think, than what anyone is anticipating. I know I went into it thinking, it's going to be really nice. We're going to get some new paint, we're going to get some new carpet, we're going to get some technology, and it's nothing like that. It's a whole new building on the inside. So that has been really fun to see the progress on that side. And the other thing that I just wanted to report on is we've been having a few meetings as we try to form the relationship between the library and the school district in preparation to sign contracts to bring the library to current middle school once we have students out of it. And nothing is finalized, nothing is signed, but we're making progress towards being able to make that happen in our community. So that's a really piece of excitement that is going to benefit all of the community. So excited about that. And that's all I have for today.
Good job talking about middle school.
Oh, but you can do better.
No, I can't. Yeah, I think school district wise, touring the RMS construction is really great. I think their last tour is the most thorough tour I've done. Usually I'm like, give me the nickel tour because I've got to get to work, and I had the day off, so I was able to stay around for the very thorough tour. The gentleman's name. But one thing I do appreciate is when we toured the sixth grade wing and the art, the CNC machine, wood art that's up that wasn't painted when we were there is so super cool. And I appreciate you going back and talking to them about moving it. Because the more it sat with me all weekend, I was like, man, that would just stink to have a really cool piece of art, and especially it's a aerial art, which I think is kind of cool, the map of the area, and having that move and actually see, and kids can be like, oh, I live here, or Bob lives there, right? Like, I think that's really cool. So thank you for having them move that so it would actually be visible.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And the other thing I have is I go back and I visit my hometown, Utah, once a year. And this year is quite tumultuous in my hometown with the school district and property taxes and their choices to remove a program which caused a budget deficit and all these things. So I talked to a lot of people about schools because they knew I was on the school board, but I'm very thankful for our district. Not just monetarily, but the level of commitment the community has for the schools is huge. And I don't think my hometown has the community involvement in the schools. I really feel like that's part of half of their equation, is the community is so disconnected. So when you talk to them about school issues. It's really a quite strange monetary fight in the community. And really, it shouldn't just be about that. It's because they literally don't have enough volunteers and parents in the school, so it's creating a complete disconnect with that school-community relationship. That's really kind of sad to see for the kids, because I think this community does a really good job with that. So, needless to say, I appreciate the community we live in and the schools.
It's a good place and a good time to be in a good place.
My turn?
Yeah.
I've been gone for 2 meetings. So I do want to say thank you to all of you for letting me be gone for 2 meetings due to some work obligations and family trip. Been out for a while, so it's been good to see the good work happen while I was away. I did review the 2 meetings that I missed, just kind of watched the video and looked at the packet. I think you guys did great work, but there is one thing I just wanted to comment on really quickly, and that is the roundabout at the high school. I think that's the right choice. I think that is the correct direction to go. It's safer for the students. It's safer for the community. It's a better choice than just a light there. I think my frustration with that is this is now the second time that the town of Johnstown has come to us and kind of moved the goalpost a little bit. And I understand it's nobody's fault. It's not anybody in this room's fault. It's not anybody in the town's fault, because people that are there now weren't there when we were planning that project. But had we had the opportunity to plan for that increased cost, I assume significant increased cost, it would have made it much easier for everybody. We could have put it in the bond. We could have had dollars set aside. I know Mr. Evers does a great job making sure we're in a good financial position and finding us the dollars when they're necessary. But we did what they asked us to do, which was to put the turn lane in and be prepared to put a light in. And now they're being asking us to do more, which is the right choice. And I would support that. I do support that choice. It's just frustrating when it changes on us like that. So I guess my encouragement to us would be, as we're working with municipalities regular, because more projects are coming, probably soon, to ask them to look down the road, 3, 5, 10 years, and say what would be necessary then, so we can put that into the project while we're planning it. I think that would be really helpful. So again, that is the right choice. We'll find the money. I know we will. It's going to be fine. But it is just a little bit frustrating to have the goalpost moved on us, even though that is the right for the community. So I was gonna give this little speech about saying thank you to our staff, but Monica did such a great job with that I don't have to.
Do it.
The one thing I will say, I am not a real political guy, but I did happen to catch one of our national political candidates this week say something to the effect of "never underestimate a teacher," and that truer words have never been, especially this week, next week, as they're getting ready to kick off a new year. I, as you all know, had the opportunity to see that firsthand. I was in my wife's room this last week helping her get ready. They've hired a teacher because the growth has required that in their grade level, and they hired her on Friday.
Oh,
so she has had, or will have had, a week to get ready. And the teamwork that goes into helping her get ready, the amount of effort that she and her family have put this last week, the administration at that building, just again, to watch that happen real time is impressive. And that is just one small story of what happens in our district to get ready for those kids to come next. So you're right, Monica, it is a lot of work that oftentimes goes unseen because it happens when people aren't there. So never underestimate a teacher. I think that's really exciting. In that same vein, I wanted to talk about the custodial staff because I know Mr. Roseberry and his team, they spent the beginning of the summer hiring, 50 people, something like that?
26.
26? Okay. I just tried to double it. 26 people at the beginning of the year to bring that custodial staff back in-house. And I know he spent all summer getting them equipment, getting them trained, getting them ready to work. And I was honestly a bit skeptical about how that work would go. Just because of the history we've had over the last 7 or 8 years, probably, with our custodial staff. He put them to work, and boy, howdy, have they worked. Just walking into the one building that I've had the opportunity to be in is night and day difference. I don't know if you guys have had much opportunity in the buildings, but Pioneer Ridge is not the same building that it was 3 or 4 months ago. We talked about pictures and before and after. I'm sure we'll see some of those, but some of the stories that I've heard are ridiculous, the work they've done. And Pioneer Ridge was not the only one. In fact, Pioneer Ridge was probably not the worst case that they have dealt with. So they have done a really good job. The staff are happy, which was not the case before. And I think it makes it easier for our students when they come into a clean and well-maintained building. It makes it easier for them to learn. When our staff is in a clean and well-maintained building, it makes it easier for them to do their jobs. So I'm excited for that. That might end up being the best decision that we all have made, bringing custodial staff back in-house, assuming it keeps up like it has. So thank you to Josh and his team for doing all the work that they have done, because it has been exciting. So I'm excited to see where it takes us. One last comment, and Monica mentioned it as well, but the meeting with the library was really exciting. I know there's a lot of work to be done. We're not anywhere near talking about what that might look like, when it's actually in place. But I think that's a really cool partnership, exciting opportunity, a lot of work to make it happen. So it's really exciting. And I think that might be the most I've ever spoken in a report. So that's what happens when you're gone for 2 meetings. So I'll shut up. Thank you.
And I'm going to speak, I'm going to speak the least I've ever done. I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing. So any questions or comments for each other?
I'll just second what Nate said. I was a little skeptical too about the decision to bring janitorial back, and I'm so glad that that skepticism was completely erased and to be proven how beneficial it is. The administration staff raves about it, all the teachers and staff at the school. So I am so pleased that that's working out. So I'm so glad that you gave a shout out to Josh and his team.
A lot of work. A lot of work.
And that'll be part of our kickoff tomorrow, is going to celebrate that whole, but they have figured out a way to model or show what we're going to share tomorrow. And we tried to get a picture from every one of our buildings. The two that are up there right now is the entryway at MES and the entryway right here. And we've had individuals who have worked in this would say it's never been as clean as it is right now, even down to the smell, right? So and Rocio's taking so much pride in this building, and she's only here part-time. I was out meeting with the food services workers, of which she is one, and she was asked in the middle of it, do you want to do food service full-time or custodial? And she said, I want to keep doing both. So I love doing both. She takes a ton of pride in it. We go to the next image. So what's interesting is the custodians would say our new builds as dirty, in some cases more dirty than our old ones.
That's what I heard.
Which is pretty fascinating to us. I don't think people knew it. And to what Nate said, I think teachers knew things needed to change, but I think you're going to see they didn't know to the extent we've heard things about. They didn't know grout was white. They thought it was gray. They power washed it. It's now white. People thought we put in new grout. So that's fascinating to think about. Tammy, we go to the next image. I think some of you heard this when we were talking about what we were going to do at MMS. We actually talked about putting carpet in all the hallways because of the way the tiles looked. When you walk in now and see the tiles, you don't want to put carpet in because the tiles look great. So that's fascinating in the sense that that will save us some money in just revamping that building for the 3-5. All right, next one, Tammy.
Oh my word. That's significant.
I don't know where, but it's definitely significant. All right, next one. This one was one that when we toured, this is at MMS. We don't know for sure, but in the art room at MMS, when we were walking through with the library a week ago, Josh opened the door and he was like, God, I don't really want to go in there because the sink looks awful, because he didn't know it had been cleaned. And then he walked in there, he's like, oh my God, it's brand new. So it was stained and never getting clean prior to, and now it looks brand new. So, and then there's kind of that's Pioneer Ridge. So when you think about that, that's what the floor looked like. That's what the floors look like at MMS too, right? So when you think about the dinginess of it, and now it's sparkling white, that's what our custodians have done. That's what pride looks like. And that's where we'll culminate with this tomorrow and celebrate the custodians and have everybody celebrate the fact they're helping create the conditions for kids to have a successful experience because they're helping the adults to have a successful experience. But I would bet while we had a feeling, staff had no idea that it was that different. Because you just don't know, right? It's like boiling a frog. But that's incredible to me to look at the difference there. And there's a video that you can watch the individual do this, right? Where you can see him with the scrubber and he's going across and you can just see, and it's stark. So that's what we'll be sharing tomorrow, the celebration and to honor their work and how important it is.
Thanks for showing us.
Yep.
I want to know what cleaning supplies they used in the sink.
Elbow
If they
grease.
could share those little tips, those are amazing.
I do think though, Scott, it is the pride that was what was missing. I think was those people are now part of a team that are held responsible, for lack of a better term.
Being part of a good mission.
Yeah, and it's just being part of a team that does take pride. I think that goes a long way, and I think that's what was missing with Sodexo and with ABM.
Yeah.
They didn't have the same kind of buy-in that our staff does now. So
They're part of our team now too. So, you know, it's a natural thing. I mean, I know my own feeling last year is how do they connect? And so they're connected now. It's easy for them to be connected. But I will also, and Nate, you did this already. You gave a shout out to Josh. Josh is a wonderful leader, understands what he's doing. But the work that the team that brought on Eric, when you listen to Eric, and you guys got to meet him for a brief, but when you watch him work, he is overtly positive, but he also knows his stuff. So his training individual conversations about how to get that clean, I'm sure he'll share with what they did to get that clean. He knows what he's doing. And if you have that, then you have the opportunity to help everybody have pride and then be able to back it up. And that's what they're doing, right? And so when we've been out and had a chance to talk to those doing it, they're excited to show you the work they're doing, and that's what you want, right? That's really cool. So thank you too for figuring out how to do that.
All right. Well, let's go on, move on to your report.
All right, I was gonna touch base on the library. I won't talk about that other than to say super excited about what that partnership, and I think it's got us as a district thinking more broadly about what other partnerships can we be thinking about, which in this community is welcome, where that's not always the case. Lots of them are much like you talked about, Amanda. One of the things I wanted to just talk about was sort of readiness for opening school. We got students coming back Monday. Cleanliness was on the docket. We talked a lot about that already, so I'm not going to belabor that. But I also want to report that we have, I think, the least number of open positions we've had in a number of years right now. We're almost fully staffed. We have a nurse that we had hired, but then left to not even take a job, go half-time, and end up making more money than we were paying her. So we're going to likely, that's posted. We think we have someone that can backfill. We have an ELA position that's open currently, again, that we hired, ended up leaving us to go to St. Vrain. We've heard closer to home, but also they pay a little more. So we have a literacy intervention position that's open, and that's essentially all we have open. Paras are full, special ed positions are essentially full. So we are in about as positive a position as I've seen a school district in since before COVID. I mean, I think you generally walk in with some open positions, but for us, being able to hire a grade teacher, we posted and we hired that position about as fast as possible. You're not even sure when you post that late in the year, you're going to get someone that you want to hire. And the team there was super excited and then ready to jump, and that person has jumped into feet too, as I understand, and I think that's what you were saying, Nate. So, and then the other piece that I just want to share with the board as we think about starting the school year, and Mr. Everest is going to be in just a second, because he's going to tell me that the number won't end up where it is, but we are right now about 150 students up over what we were last year. So it's going to go down. What percentage? I asked Michael today to pick the over-under on would we be up more than 50,
Yeah.
and he was I had a hard time with that would go over. So, but we're in a good spot, right? 150 kids up. We're likely going to gain some between now and the beginning of September, and at the same time, there's going to be some who are going elsewhere, and we just don't know it yet.
Right.
So what numbers those will be, but that's pretty good to be 150 plus today. We continue to hear the phone has been ringing off the hook upstairs with people who are wanting to come. We also have seen some families that we know overtly weren't coming to our schools that are back, which is interesting. So, and we'll watch and see. But that's been pretty interesting to watch and I don't know the families, I just hear it's hearsay, but it's exciting because when they come back, there's a reason that people are talking about what's there. The other thing I just want to be transparent about though is there's also some consternation. We can do a better job of communicating from the high school. And there's some chatter right now out there about people who are frustrated. They don't feel like we are customer service oriented at the high school as much as families would like. So that's something we got to work on. We got to get better. And we had some conversations the last couple days about it. And it's something we're going to have to continue to think through and work through as a district. But just being transparent, we'll be ready to go. But that creates angst in families when they don't feel like they have the information they need to have a smooth transition. So that's something we can continue to improve.
Do you think that the new website with kind of the global calendar of the district will help with that?
I do think it will help with that in time. I think one of the challenges you have whenever you overhaul a website is it's not as up to date as people perceive the old was, because the old one had everything in it. The problem with the old one is that had everything in it. So it's going to take time for the new one to replace the pieces that were super important. But I think what the parents are talking about is probably beyond just what the website will communicate. The website's going to be passive communication. And what we're hearing is active, right? Is parents are calling and nobody's picking up, or they're calling, they're getting a voicemail, not getting a call back in a timely fashion. So that's the service part that I think we have to understand and take on. And this time of year is busy. But when you listen to Nora upstairs, right, who's been in a school and Hops, she's incredible about how she responds and gets an answer. And at least what we're hearing is that isn't true for all the phone calls that people are making. So again, room for growth and opportunity for improvement. And that's something we'll take seriously because that is part of helping a family transition. So.
Couple questions if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, first, like this, more a comment. I think at the high school in particular, I've said this since I've been on this board, but this is growing pains, right? This is dealing with new systems, ways of doing things. And last year there was a lot of grace because it was a brand new building. This year there's not so much grace because it's not a brand new building. So I think we're hearing that from especially. So I'm glad to hear we're working on that. The thing that I've heard the most about is the picture day. They're doing pictures tomorrow and Friday instead of when school starts. And that just, I think a lot of people, that's weird. That's unusual to do pictures before school even starts. So that's what I've heard about that piece. But I think, again, just growing pains. We'll get it figured out. Question though, so we have 150, I know it'll change, but 150 students, new students, that's across the district?
Yes.
That's not in one location? Right. Another, just again, because I have a high schooler, I get the communication from the high school. They sent an email out that said there were 100 transfer students at the high school. So are most of those at the high school?
I haven't looked at numbers that closely, Nate, to see how many we lost at the high school, how many we've gained.
Okay.
I just know when we look global and then subtracted out KQA and Civic, that's
where it was. Okay.
That's where we're trying.
And the only reason I ask is, I mean, the high school was built for a certain number of students and opened with a lot of that number of students. If we have 100 transfer students and we had 100 transfer students last year, new students to the school last year, we need to start, the long-range planning task force needs to be talking about those numbers. That's the only reason I ask.
We're not up over 100 kids over where we were last year at Roosevelt High School right now.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
yeah.
But again, again, long-range planning task force needs to be looking at
Totally.
those numbers.
For sure they do.
And I've forgotten the third question, so I'll think of it later.
I have a question. You can continue to think. What is the status of the new website?
It is functional right now. It's up and running.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and there's still parts of it that are instructional. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's up and running. And Jessica, I know there's a site for it, but I can't, in my head, I can't.
I mean, that must have,
Waterary5j.org.
Yes, there we go. And it used to be the dot.
.ko,
Yeah.
.co,
oh,
.usa flag.
So in the process, we purchased or got a hold of .org. And
okay.
so
So the old site though, we're not redirecting traffic from the old site, are we? Because
We took that down
did you? When did you do that? Because,
today.
oh, I was gonna say, because Friday in there, it was the same site.
Okay. I thought
Okay.
I was off the crazy
Okay.
too, all right.
So, and we are redirecting traffic though?
We are redirecting.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna play around with the new website, so
I had a
who
question
wants
about
to take over here? Vice President can run the meeting.
the phones at the high school. So does each school have its own phone system? So they're like individual islands of phones, or is there like one global phone system?
What do you mean, like if you call the high school, then they can transfer you somewhere?
Mhm.
They call you, transfer to a school? We can do that. We can, if they call here, we can transfer them to a school.
So it's all on the same phone system? Because that might be something else to think about, is a rollover phone number, right? Like an auto-indent feature where it rings 3 times and it rolls to a different group or something like that.
Especially in the summertime when there are people here often, but not.
Yeah, because it could roll to different schools than hit Nora. Yeah. That might be an easier solution.
it'll feel better than.
Yeah, it might not roll to the right place you're hoping to, but it'll help you get, you can at least
Yeah.
give you information live.
Yeah. Thanks for that suggestion.
I'm sure you already thought about it.
Well, ironically, today we were talking about how do we have somebody who's paying attention to what's going on through the summer. Because I do think you create angst, particularly in a growing district, when you have new people register that don't hear anything for a month. And if your accounts are off in a month. So how do we remedy that? And that's something Pooler had worked on, and it was having counselors who are frequently throughout the summer and as part of their days. We're trying to keep up with that so they didn't come back to a mountain of this. And it doesn't feel good to say we're off for the summer, because then angst is created for those families. Some of that's what we're doing.
Did your question come back?
No, it's gone. I'll think of it at 3 o'clock this morning, probably.
Well, then I would love to, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to move on. As part of my update, I asked Jeremy Yarrow to share some accessibility, some of what we've been doing as a district, as he's getting ready to talk to you. I just want to thank Jeremy. I think when we talked in the spring and we started to think about the percentage of his day or his week that was being spent on accessibility, it was a part-time job for him. So, and I really do appreciate the work you've done to position us for the next year, but even the way you're thinking about what's beyond that. So with that, Jeremy, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, President Wales, members of the board, and Superintendent Nielsen. I'm Jeremy Yarrow, Internal Technology Specialist for the Wildhart School District. As Superintendent Nielsen stated, I'm here this evening to offer an update on our district's compliance with the State of Colorado technology accessibility bills, which have gone into effect. When we think about accessibility, Our commitment with education and the public sector in general to accessibility really has been over the last 30, 50 years of looking at accessibility and accessible services. But with the rapid advancement of technology and adoption of technology, we really haven't put that same lens of accessibility onto the technology realm. And that's really what these bills push toward, is providing the same accessible services to all Coloradans within the technology realm. So as I mentioned, 2 Colorado bills currently govern new compliance standard for information technology accessibility. On the left-hand side of that graphic is House Bill 211110, which is a full technology accessibility bill. That bill really provides a mechanism for the Office of Information Technology to make rules around accessibility for information technology. So House Bill, the other House Bill 241454, which you can see on the right-hand side, allows for a grace period before full compliance with the House Bill on the left, before it's required and enforced. So the grace period, this grace period is provided when public entities, which includes school districts, display good faith efforts, which are outlined there on the right. As you can see, we're kind of in a position at this point to either be in full compliance with those OIT rules on the left, or to use the grace period bill on the inside. So during the grace period, which lasts until July 1, 2025, our school district needs to show good faith efforts to resolving complaints about accessibility, create and publish clear, easy to find processes for requesting redress of any technology accessibility issues, create a progress report with quarterly updates, and demonstrate concrete and specific efforts toward compliance with those OIT rules, the full bill. So administrative staff within the district has already created and published documentation on our website. And you mentioned the new website, it's on the new website too, which is great. So created and published documentation on our website to show our efforts toward compliance and these grace period requirements as well. So for full compliance with the full House Bill 1110 by July 1, 2025, these are kind of the bulleted list items that we need to take care of. Determine processes and tools to request accommodations for any issues with technology. Create and publish notice describing methods to request accommodations. Create processes for regular testing and remediation of information and communications technology, and create and deliver individualized staff training for content creation standards and resource adoption procedures. That's one item that we just mentioned during the all staff training today, letting staff know that those kind of training procedures and training programs will be coming during this next school year. So again, staff, we've already begun the process of working with a lot of our third-party providers, all of the different apps and websites and things that we use for instructional resources. So partnering with those third parties to really understand where they are with their compliance and the tools that they're building, and making sure that they are either compliant with those OIT rules or that they're on track to be compliant with those OIT rules by next July. As I mentioned, we've also begun planning to deliver training for staff to become familiar with these technology standards and build skills that will be necessary for staff to be able to deliver accessible learning materials, as well as accessible communications for our parents and our community members. As the board wishes, we can provide updates throughout the school year on our continued efforts toward full compliance. And to conclude, I just wanted to share the accessibility statement that's currently on our website. When we use the kind of a template from the state of Colorado to create this, Welldarie 5J is committed to providing equitable access to our services to all Radans. Our ongoing accessibility efforts work towards being in line with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and sometimes pronounced as WCAG, if you ever hear that terminology thrown around. Version 2 level 2A criteria, so there are some very specific content criteria standards that go along with these bills. But we welcome comments and a way for people to report about accessibility. So thank you for your time this evening. I enjoyed being here and providing this update, and I look forward to any discussion or further comments.
Thank you, Ms. Harwood. Any questions?
I have questions on slide, I don't know, well, it says HB 21. Anyways, it says create and deliver individualized staff training for content creation standards and resource adoption procedures.
Sure.
That's a bit, are you, and I know you're working through that, do you view this coming from the technology department out, or is this going to be a technology department out and school out, and that kind of meets in the middle somewhere? Because my understanding is correct, it's accessibility, even internally built, utilized tools that are technology so that your employees who are colorblind or whatever have different disabilities, that they don't have to come forth and say that, they should just be able to access the technology. So
sure.
On that training piece, where do you envision that starting and emanating, and how you get it out to everybody?
I think just first of all, growing a base of knowledgeable individuals within the district that are really familiar with all of those standards, the WCAG standards for web content accessibility. There are also ISO standards for PDF creation. So really just getting that base of understanding what are the differences and contrast that we have to have in a document. How do we create a PDF that has the right tags in it so that it's readable by a screen reader or a visually impaired person? So building that base, and then really looking at the functions served by all of the different staff groups across the whole district and the knowledge that they need to be able to deliver those learning materials to students, documentation and all kinds of tools for staff to conduct their jobs, as well as communication out to community, parents and community.
Yeah, it's really overwhelming. That's why I was asking how you plan on tackling that beast a little bit, because it's a year goes by fast and we're already through part of that year.
Sure.
And then the other question I had was, I'm assuming, that the district has vendors who provide technology like Class Dojo or whatever to communicate out to parents. And have you been started that process of working with those vendors, sure that they're following the WCAG standards? Because that should ultimately lead to following the Colorado bill, because
sure.
The WCAG is equitable in that.
Sure. Even last spring, as all of the departments were, going through contract renewals and things like that for the coming year, we were communicating with a lot of those vendors to see where they were at with accessibility, getting statements back from them that, they are compliant or they're fully compliant minus a couple of elements that might be within their tool, but that they're working on that and they're committed to the timelines that we have to abide by.
Great.
Yeah.
And one last question, because it applies to a lot of the marketing materials that go out, as well as having descriptions of pictures on, description of what's pictured even on social, like Weld County does this, right? They
Sure.
The description of the dog standing on green grass or whatever. Is that included as part of that vendor review and ensuring that those are being followed? And then I have a follow-up question on that personally on my board Facebook. But answer the first one, and then I'll ask you my question.
Okay.
And I'll be done and I'll let someone else ask questions.
No, that's fine. Can I ask for you to clarify the first question?
So first one, so like even on social stuff that goes out, if you have a picture, you're supposed to put an alt tag on a picture, and Facebook
Sure.
isn't friendly, so you have to like use your footprint of that post to put your alt tag of that picture.
Right.
Is that also included in that vendor's contract as well, to make sure that that's happening also on social?
I believe where I think you're going with this question, I guess I would wrap it back into staff training on the production of different communications and standards that we need to abide by that. So
Yeah, because
staff
we have the
that are-
school, because we have the school Facebook pages and we have the district's Facebook page.
Sure.
They all need those things.
Yep.
All right, last question, and then I'll move on. I have a board Facebook, which has like a whole two people, but it's fine. Like I talk to those two people and they're my people. And I'm not the school, so I'm not under these particular rules, but to support the school district in this effort, should I start adding alt descriptions on my pictures? Which I can, but I just want to like make sure that like I'm in cahoots with you in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at
Wait,
this
on pictures
point
that you're posting to Facebook?
Yeah, I have like it's not my personal Facebook. I have like a board Facebook because I'm just a weirdo and I have a board Facebook. But I post pictures to my like two people, right? And I just want to make sure that I have more than two people. No, this is not a shameless plug, but I just want to make sure that like if I'm representing the district under that platform, that I'm also showing that I'm doing my best to be compliant. I don't think it spreads to political figures, which is weird to think of myself as such. But
I guess
it's a personal choice, is what you're trying to hear. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to answer the question. Okay.
no, social media is definitely one of those communication avenues that we will have to take a close look at and make sure that all of those social media accounts that the district does maintain are posting accessible materials. Because as you mentioned, the bill really does, it does talk about our providing accessible tools and communications via technology for students, for staff, and for the community. So it really is very all-encompassing.
Yeah, it's
So
overwhelming.
yeah, looking at those social media pieces will definitely be part of our staff training and making sure that we're doing those things properly.
And can I add to that, is just as we've gone through the process of working on our website, one of the things that took us longer, or is taking us longer, is that Tabitha is working to make sure that what we put on our website is accessible. She has done a tremendous amount of training. We also entered into a contract with Aaliyah from the high school, and she's doing some of our social media tracking and posting, and she's been working with Tabitha also around training. So trying to help people that we're working with who represent us, or by very nature extensions of ours, to help them get trained. Tabitha's gone to multiple large trainings to make sure she's up to speed. And the contract with her changed because there's software now that she has to use that helps her do that work. And so for us, and on our end, I think helps us to be able to say, we're making a good faith effort and making progress. And there is a lot of work to do. And at every turn, you look at it and you say, oh my gosh, there's another one we've got to move. Ironically, we were talking to Randy Ziva today, and BOCES is working with other little districts that have really done none of this yet, and trying to help them and train and do what Jeremy's done. So this is going to be a challenge for school districts. And I will be curious to see where it lands in a year in terms of redress. And I've said this to Jay, my hope, right, when they came out initially, it was pretty black and white. If you messed up, there was a money penalty. Now, if you have a challenge, you are given a chance to fix that. And my hope at least is for public entities that as they move forward, that it will stay that you will always have an opportunity to fix it. It won't be a monetary slap on the hand every time you make a mistake. Because school districts and other public entities will be hard pressed to be able to afford over and over and over. And you start to have the ambulance chasers at that point look for it for the monetary penalty. So my hope is that as they continue to work through this, that they got a way to make progress and give opportunities when people make mistakes, and the opportunity rather than being a fine or some time period before you're fined.
I agree, that worries me. It worries me. That would be a budget line item, and it would take away from our ability to kids to national competitions, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
Well, I think the bill is worded, I mean, really what superintendent says is almost better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today, is you're steadily working on it. And I think if you can show that you are steadily working on making improvements, then you are in compliance with that bill. So that's my hope, and is that we'll just continue to show that effort. And I think I'm skimming through the new website now, and just one quick question on the accessibility. I know if you're on the home page and you go to the bottom, but how do you access those features, or is it not available? I know it went live 2 hours ago.
Are you talking about the icon in the lower?
It's on the
corner?
very bottom on the home page, and it gives us that accessibility prompt that we viewed in our slide. But for instance, let's say that I am visually impaired, and
Sure.
I think it's something you should be able to access a voice directory. That's, I'm sure, part of the overall plan eventually.
Yeah, I believe, and I think Tabitha probably could speak more to the specific accessibility functionality of the website. But I believe they have a plugin on the website that's a Smosin in a blue dot that
If you go to the
click
left,
on.
yeah, if you go to the left-hand
And it'll
corner,
open up a bunch of tools where you can change your fast, start a screen reader
I don't have
session.
that little guy. I clicked on website accessibility and it says, oops, the page is lost.
That's where I
That's
went
a sad
to.
story.
So maybe we're clicking on things. Yeah, we'll find it. Because, yeah, I know that there are the icons that can direct you to that area. So
Yeah, your website accessibility page just doesn't right now. Sorry.
It's not accessible.
It's not accessible.
it did go
We'll
live
check
2
into that.
hours ago.
It did go live 2 hours. I know. It's buggy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where we're
Sure.
lasting for
Yeah.
you right now. I don't have that little dude. What browser are you in?
we go back to the, that was MES page. I somehow got to
Oh, it's not
MES.
on the home page.
Thank you. Thank you
See?
for working on and helping us to get the work
Well,
done
if
that
you go to,
we
like,
need
the
to get
MES
done.
page,
So
it's in
that's
the-
very much,
So if you go to
it's a
schools,
daunting task.
let's try Elwood.
So,
As we test it in
I
front
know.
of you. How horrible, right? You're like, oh my God.
No, it's not there.
Well,
Just
Jeremy
maybe on the
offered
MES
it,
page.
and I think as we were talking in preparation for tonight, as the board desires for us to come back, one of Jeremy's tasks in this role is to keep up with what we're doing quarterly, that quarterly report that's required. He's training for the district. And so to be able to communicate what we've done over the last quarter, we can talk about how does that fit, whether that's in a Friday update for me or whether that's.
I agree. That's what I was thinking when he was talking to, is how do we as a board, part of our fiduciary duties, make sure we're following this law, just like other laws.
So we can talk more about that as we go forward, but we wanted, as we step into this year, where to at least give you a peek at what we're doing and how the department's looking at it.
Good work, man.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you so much. So, well, come back up here though, because I actually do, I actually do have questions. I didn't, and are you still doing, coaching as well?
Instructional coaching?
Yeah,
So still certainly within the instructional realm of things, instructional technology specialist, kind of the new
okay.
title, but really looking at being a part of that tech team and that instructional team and the cross section between, and how do we get the most out of technology for our students in the classroom every day. Yeah.
You're a busy guy. All right, thank you. Oh, let's move on to our consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure provide for consent agenda listing several items for approval by the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent have gone through thorough board review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of a boarder. Before I get my entertainer's hat on, have you checked your email lately?
Yes, I thought I was all caught up.
Yeah, you're not.
I recognize that.
Because 3 different times a day I thought I was caught
Yeah,
up.
you're always a step ahead of me too, but working on teacher contracts that come through our email, and Amanda gifted me that job.
Welcome.
Thank you, Amanda. And yeah, I was feeling so proud because I thought, oh, I'm on top of it. I'll have all this done in the AM hours, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah, there were 2 different times today I logged into mail to check the status of another conversation that was happening, and it was just solidly filled with probationary contracts. And I think we got all most of the admin contracts. It's 1 admin contract still out, but all the probationaries are.
I think I still have just a handful that I need to address, so I will get to those after board meeting, I promise.
You're probably not gonna be done yet.
Daddy's like, just wait.
And we actually don't have that many in the P&L section of the consent agenda, but there were a bunch of contracts, no doubt about it.
Yeah, which is, it's great. You have to look at it from that positive perspective, is that we are filling our schools. We are filling all of the positions that are necessary. So I'm looking at it from that perspective. So
Yeah.
it's a good problem.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
It is a good problem.
it is. You just didn't warn me, I feel like.
Oh man, I remember being up till like 11:30 at night, just like clicking like, oh gosh, how did we hire so many people?
Yeah, it's amazing to see how many working hands are involved to make our schools so successful.
Well, and I sort of the bottleneck, because they come after the employee signs it, it comes to me. After I sign it, it goes to you.
Oh.
So if I don't check my email for a couple of days,
I
it kind
see.
of builds up.
I know, and so I apologize because I was on vacation and kind of out of cell range for just a bit. So I felt terrible that I hadn't gotten to some of those. I think it was maybe a week before they were in my email box and I didn't see them. So I apologize for that, but I'll get caught up tonight.
Well, with all of that, I would entertain a motion for our consent agenda.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
A second.
I have a motion by Director Proctor, a second by Director Johnson to, can I say approve? You said accept.
Yes, approved.
Approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion?
I just want to point out there are 2 students on that list. I think just 2. I think that's really cool.
Yep.
That we're employing our own students to do those jobs. So I think that's something to be celebrated.
I agree.
And maybe we can hear from them in November.
Yeah.
We already got the slate lined out. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Right.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, let's move on to, do we need a recess? Okay. We'll move on to old business. This is the final reading of policies updated to reflect changes in legislation and the Colorado Association of School Boards recommendations. Superintendent Nielsen.
So we brought back policies we looked at June 4th, I think, June 3rd, whatever that first meeting in June. We brought back the Title IX ones, second meeting in June, to make sure we had them in July. And then had a chance to kind of scrub and look at these, make sure everything in them was filled out, and that we selected the pieces. These have been on the website since June 5th with no comments. They're the recommendation CASB made. And so what we're asking tonight is for us to move these forward. These are the ones that are required by state law and the CASB's recommendation on how to do it. So.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, I entertain a motion. You have to read every single one of them as part of your motion.
I already have to sign all the contracts. So my voter man.
No, you weren't here. That resolution that Michael made me read, I can't do it. Can't do it. Reading aloud is out.
All right, I'm going to move that we adopt all the policy amendments as presented.
Perfect. I have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Proctor, to approve the policy updates and amendments as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagana, would you please pull the board?
Monica Johnson?
Yes.
Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sassano?
Yes.
Michael Wales?
Yes. We'll move on to special. Our first item is Milliken Elementary School Amendment number 8.
All right, President Wales, board members. Jacob's here tonight for 2 items. The first item is an amendment regarding betterments at Milliken Elementary School. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jacob.
I hope you brought some more of those shirts with you too, man. I saw you walk in and I was like, damn it.
He has good shirts.
Oh,
These are nice.
yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, so this is something that was brought up on the last amendment for Milliken, which is utilizing the BEST grant that we weren't able to maximize it due to certain design costs not being covered by the BEST grant due to the way it was written, which is unfortunate, but we do have betterments lists, which are, construction design ideas that are, brought up during the project. If we have extra funds, those are options to proceed with. And BEST is okay reimbursing those. So this is about half of the funds remaining on this BEST grant to utilize for betterments for Milliken Elementary School. So we're still getting pricing on a couple of other items to continue to try to max out that BEST grant. But right now, this is what we have finalized pricing for, which includes placing the gym floor. The last item is also a blue border that was specifically requested by the principal. Gym and STEM room, acoustical panels to improve sound, acoustics and whatnot, so it's not so echoey. Paint the gym walls, just give it a fresh coat. And then stage curtain replacement. The existing curtain wall is not very functional. It does not work very well. It's very difficult to manage. So the idea was to take that out and just replace it with a standard stage curtain. So.
I know that'll make them happy. There was a lot of concern about that gym floor and that it was kind of being overlooked. So it's awesome to be able to.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised it's so cheap.
I know.
I thought gym floors were a lot more expensive.
Well, the nice thing is that was a wood floor filled with mercury, so we ate that. But this new floor is the same we put in Elwell Elementary, which is not the typical wood you might see. So,
right.
But good resilient material. Very happy with it. So.
Oh, good.
Does this replacement include the abatement?
It's not listed here, but that is part of it. So.
That's good. So the way you phrase that, Jacob, I thought we were using funds to reimburse work that's already been done. This work hasn't been done yet. We're using the BEST grant to fund these
Correct.
options.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think based on all the other improvements in Milliken, that having, when we finish the gym, we feel like that school will really be exactly what we wanted it to be at that point. Because I know that was the one item that we really wanted to improve was the gym.
When I took over a year ago, there were two items that were kind of, I would say holdovers. One was the floor in the cafeteria, which ended up getting fixed because there was damage done. So that floor is brand new. And then the gym, I would say the floor, but also the aesthetics in there, which are being taken care of. I didn't notice the wall, but it makes sense to me that wall is a foldable wall. Those things are tough, they're hard to manage, and that's been there a long time,
It's
so.
quite old.
So I do think it has almost that whole school being updated and taken care of.
You may not know off the top of your head, how much is left in the best grant?
Thank you.
One
That's
suite.
the same thing.
This is approximately half. I can get you an exact number if you'd like.
So are there more items on the list?
Correct. We are currently getting pricing for a voice lift system throughout the school. So
What, a
voice lift system so that there's speakers and then the teacher can have a mic.
Oh,
If there's people in the back of the class who might not be able to hear as well.
Yeah.
So getting pricing on that. We're getting pricing on the ECE because that was a spot that didn't really get a lot of love during the renovation. We did a couple of minor improvements in there, but we're currently getting pricing for new flooring. So new flooring within the bathrooms, within the hallways, within all the classrooms. So just to replace that a little bit.
And we think those two things probably spend the majority of that remaining budget?
I don't know that we will, actually. We're also getting pricing for irrigation controller, which is, because currently everything right now is controlled for the landscaping on separate controllers and on batteries. So it'd be nice to be able to connect all those so that facilities doesn't have to change all the batteries, maintain each thing separately. It can all be one system tied together, more efficient. So between all those, we'll probably still have some left in the best grant. So I was going to sit down with Jen, principal, and talk with her about any additional betterments that we want to pursue.
When do you think this work will be done that's listed on here?
This work, we are shooting for the gym floor here in a month, get all that wrapped up and done. Sort of paint, and then, let's see here. Yeah, acoustical wall panels, really just as soon as we can get the materials. So.
So that sparks another question, sorry. If we're doing that completed in a month, are we just not using the gym for the first few weeks of school so they can do this? Or what's the plan? Is that the plan? Okay.
Yeah, use outdoor spaces in that time.
I mean, now's the time to do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Exactly. Rather now than December. So.
Okay.
Yep.
We can and probably should take action on this if we want to make those early fall deadlines, get those kids back inside.
I will move to approve the amendments to the original MES contract in the amount of $191,000. Good Lord, I need my glasses. $191,925.67.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Proctor to approve Milliken Elementary School Amendment Number 8. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagon, would you please pull the board?
Monica Johnson?
Yes.
Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sassano?
Yes.
Michael Whale?
Yes. All right, our next item is Roosevelt Middle School, number 9.
Just turn it over to Jacob.
All right, Jacob.
All right. So this one is a little different just because we actually are increasing the FGMP, but there's a reason for that.
Can you tell me again what school this is for?
School.
Okay. I was curious if you're going to be like Czech and call it Roosevelt.
So just to run through the items real quick, just so there's some background. We need to do cement treatment per the soil supports for some asphalt areas in the parking lot, or the bus loop rather, just because concerning the settlement in the future. So do treatment there, so it's all nice and stable. I'll come back to COR 36. Replacement roof drains, just not of the best quality, so I want to get those updated with all the roofing issues we've had at that place in the past. Paint exterior area E, that's just to spruce up the precast concrete that has some, rust stains. It's just not been repainted in some time, so get that nice and looking good. Back to COR 36. So this is the item that will be increasing the FGMP accepted. Reason being is with the FF&E budget working with Aspen over at Roosevelt Middle School, we were actually able to come in under budget by this amount. We specifically got that cost, planned that. So while this is increasing the FGMP for A&P, we're going to take those extra FF&E funds that we already had allocated and transfer that to under contingency. So those funds are no longer allocated to be spent anymore, and there's additional funds ready to be used.
So increasing the GMP, but not increasing overall cost.
Exactly.
I said it before, I hate the term amendment because it looks like that's what we're doing. Right. And we're not, so. Thanks for clarifying that.
Absolutely.
On this one, is there going to be an issue with the BEST grant and kind of like Milliken Elementary where we're figuring out different things?
No, there should not be. Two of the science rooms actually came part of the contract with those built-ins. So Aspen saw that and said that, and
Nice.
so we adjusted the budget accordingly. I think that'll work.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jacob? Again, we can go ahead and take action on this one.
A motion to approve the amendment to the original Roosevelt Middle School contract in the amount of $36,116.
Second.
I have a motion by Director Proctor, second by Vice President Sassano to approve Roosevelt Middle School Amendment Number 9. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagano, would you please pull the board?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Amanda Proctor,
Yes.
Lisa Sano,
Yes.
Michael Wales.
Yes. Thanks, sir.
Got it.
Thanks, Jacob.
Our next item is consideration of an IGA for the Pioneer Ridge Elementary Playground with the town of Johnstown. Superintendent Nielsen.
Thanks, President Wales, board members. As we talked about last time we were together, the town has approved this IGA, which is essentially, when it's boiled right down, is matching dollar for dollar up to $100,000 that we spend toward the playground out at Pioneer Ridge. So our ask tonight is that you approve that so we can move forward. And we'll talk the next agenda item, the idea how we're going to go out and get money. The one thing we talked about last time was there's a stipulation in there that the $100,000 match has to come from our budget, not from Well Trust or
Another grant or- right.
whatever. Our plan right now is for that to be the case anyway. So for us, our position as staff is, this is a thank you, right? Because we appreciate the town coming to, obviously more money would have been even better, but $100,000 is $100,000. I think you'll also see, as we've gotten a little further along, that what Michael talks about in terms of what we're thinking about the cost for the district for that playground is less than what we talked about just a couple of weeks ago. So, and part of that is $100,000. Any questions you have about that? Both Michael and I are ready to answer. I think we need to.
I think my question is, won't we now have an IGA for the playground and a separate IGA for the disc golf course? I'm just wondering if they need to be separate IGAs. If I mean, we can approve this tonight, that's fine. I'm just thinking long-term, how many IGAs with the town of Johnstown do we need to have?
Especially on something like that where it's recreational base, it might be worth.
And I could be wrong that we have one. I think I remember
We do?
setting maybe 2 years ago for that. I don't know if it's worth putting them in the same document or letting them live like this. That's fine. I just asked the question.
I guess I might recommend, just in the lieu of our conversation about the IGAs last time, the staff, we've had a chance to talk about how we feel like we can kind of get a lasso around all of our IGAs and have an opportunity for the board to be aware of them annually, not necessarily do work on them annually, but be aware of them annually. And I might say this one is really written about the $100,000.
That's what I was just
right? And so that we do this now, and then when we decide we want to come back around, maybe we try to figure out, is there cost sharing going forward in terms of both But I would recommend we take action on this one now and move forward.
That's totally fine. I more than anything wanted to call it out because it's, I'm like you. I wish the town had come to the table with more money, but I appreciate that it didn't come to the table at all. I find it interesting because if you looked at the amount of time that the school uses the facility versus the amount of time that residents in that area use the facility, I think % of the cost to replace it is pretty paltry. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine.
I agree. I think I've thought about this IGA and the roundabout. It's definitely disappointing because even in the roundabout, they're offering not in that. And I find that interesting because it's an important piece of infrastructure for the health and safety of Johnstown residents.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. I think it's interesting.
The other part that, and I'm not gonna, this is not a hill to die on, excuse me, but the IGA specifically removes any liability from the town. I mean, I don't know how that works if somebody breaks their arm on the playground at 10 at night when the school's clearly not in session, but it just makes me wonder long-term what we're doing with that. So again, I think it's worth doing tonight because of the money that we're bringing to the table, but long-term, it might be worth investigating a little more.
Yeah, I think with the playground anyways, I think it'd be covered under CGIA, whether
Probably.
it was us or the town anyway.
I'm sure it's not worth, like I said, it's not worth beating a hill to die on, but just a question that I have when I read it over. So.
Yeah.
I was going to ask financial questions again, one step ahead of the next presentation, if that's correct, right? I think those questions will be answered in the next item of business, so I can just be patient.
Or make a motion.
Or maybe.
Look at you tonight. Look at you, prodding us along.
I'll make a motion that we approve the IGA with the town of Johnstown. I need to go into further detail. I don't have my little cheat sheet up here. Thank you. I move to improve the IGA between Weld RE5J and the town of Johnstown for cost sharing for the new playgrounds at Pioneer Ridge Elementary. As presented.
Also.
We have a motion by Director Johnson, a second by Vice President Sassano to approve the IGA with Johnstown for the cost sharing agreement with the playground at Pioneer Ridge Elementary School. Any further discussion?
Monica Johnson?
Yes.
Amanda Proctor?
Yes.
Nate Sassano?
Yes.
Michael Wales?
Yes. All right, our next item is a discussion of the Milliken Intermediate School Pioneer Ridge Elementary Playground financing.
So at our last meeting, Mr. Everest shared some thinking he has around how we would finance both projects. And the presentation he shared 2 weeks ago now, I think is in the document or in the agenda. But I think as recent as about 90 minutes ago or 2 hours ago, I think he's got some updates on thinking that tweak this just a little bit. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Superintendent Nielsen, President Wales, members of the Board of Education. As Superintendent Nielsen said, I had a conversation with First National about 2.5 hours ago. So this is so we have more refined information than what was presented a couple of weeks ago. What First National is currently posing, we'll do this as a construction loan. So during the construction period is going to be, between the PRE playground and then in the MIS or the middle school building remodeling, that's going to be about a year. Kind of from the start of the playground to the end of the MIS remodeling. During that first year, we'll have a floating interest rate where we'll pay interest just on the amount of our monthly construction draws, so it wouldn't be for the full amount, it would just be on how much we actually draw down each month. Currently, that interest rate would be 7.75%, so that is more expensive than what I had originally presented to you several weeks ago. But again, some more refined numbers we have. So then after the first year, after the construction has been completed, then it would become a fixed rate for the loan. Currently, that fixed percentage would be 6.5%. How the loan would be structured, it would be amortized, or they would price the payments out of loan over a 10-year period. We would, so in years 2, 3, and 4, we would pay, those annual payments, and then there would be a balloon payment due at the end of that, time. So, with our current thinking of going out for a bond, kind of in an intervening time, if we, were able to pass a bond during that time, then we could just pay this off and kind of just be done with it. If we weren't able to pass a bond, at the end of that initial period, we would need to refinance. Well, either pay it off if we chose to do that, or refinance it and kind of continue on the path to paying it off that way. The balloon payment at the end of that time, about $1.7 million. So the total borrowing that we're looking at this point would be about $2.3 million, and that's with the reduction in, with the $100,000 IDA that you just approved with the town of Johnstown, and then also kind of refining exactly what equipment we would be getting for PRE. That loan amount would be $780,000. And then the Milliken Middle School remodeling, we're still looking at a budget of about $1.5 million for that. So that part has changed. With the high, with the higher interest rate on the middle school remodel project, originally I had projected that our annual payments would be about $194,000. Is what I was projecting the payment would be there. With the higher interest rate, we would be looking at an annual payment of about $208,000 to $209,000. So that's an increase of about $14,000 to $15,000 a year. Again based off of the interest rate increase. The annual payment for PRE that would be $108,000 to $109,000 a year. Again, the interest rate went up, but the amount we were borrowing for that would come down off of the initial estimate of $1 million. So then our total annual payments for both projects would be just over $317,000 a year. We currently, so you have a question, President Well?
Do you?
Okay.
What did you say the balloon payment would be though?
It would be after year 4.
Oh.
We'd have the initial construction period of about a year.
Okay. I was still thinking we're on the 10-year. I was like, how are we making a balloon payment of?
Thank you, because he said year 10, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Our annual payments are priced over a 10-year repayment schedule, but we have the balloon payment at the end of year 3.
I was like, that's more than 7% That's
You would be correct, President Wales. That would be considerably more.
quite a bit more than 7. And real quick, and I'll let you continue on. What was the construction loan rate? 7.5?
During the construction period, that's a floating rate, and right now it would be 7.75% for that initial draw period, and then we would go to 6.5% at this point.
Okay. Sorry, please continue.
Sure. And then currently, we're discussing. This is the typical use for our cash in lieu, money, cash in in lieu funding that we get. We currently have about 1.2 million in cash in lieu right now. And then, utilizing that money for this, but then, also looking at utilizing it for a roundabout, the potential roundabout expenses that we would have. So, unfortunately, cash in lieu isn't infinite, so we'll have to kind of take a look at that. But, we definitely have a nice amount right now, and the town projecting, for the next year or two, a year or two at least, we'll be getting, a considerable amount of money in cash in lieu as well. But with cash in lieu, if the building stops, the money stops. So that, you have to kind of take that as well.
The cash in lieu, is that 1.2, I think you said that we have currently, is that combined? I know we're been asked to keep track of those separate.
Yes, that's the combined Johnstown Milliken cash in lieu, and then the Milliken exclusive cash in lieu.
Okay.
That's combined.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And this, I'm sorry, this concludes my presentation.
Okay.
I can answer any other questions.
Questions?
I have a question. Would the town of Milliken be interested in also turning into an IGA for
A playground?
Hofstra playground? I know we'll have a park right across the street, but is that a possibility or?
That has not been explored, Director Johnson. I don't know what the appetite would be for that. I know I'd be for it, but.
And I think the ask is the same, that we're going to put a playground in at that facility that wasn't there previously, that would also be accessible to the town, to the residents of the town after school hours or even during school hours. Because it's not going to be fenced off, right? I mean, that's what PRE is now. So, I mean, it's probably a question worth asking, for sure. And this is the other thing that I wanted to comment on that you guys talked about last time. I know I've talked a lot about grants for the PRE project for at least. I like the better because there's no question, right? We're applying for a grant, maybe not getting a grant, waiting until we do get a grant to fund the work. So if we have this opportunity to do it this way, I think this is the better way to go about it. If we end up getting grants down the road that can spend on other things, I think that's great. But because this is it really is a pretty immediate need, at least for PRE, and we can handle the project at MMS, the renovation project at MMS in the same fell swoop, I think it's worth doing. So thank you for putting it together. Boy.
Nothing. This is that word, that turn of phrase is always kind of makes me chuckle.
So one question real quick.
Go ahead.
So it's $1.5 million at MMS for the carpet and the paint, et cetera. Does that include the playground? That $1.5 million includes the playground at MMS? Okay.
And the playground we're looking at MMS mimics, if you think right now at PRE, there's I'd say 3 zones. And we're going to mimic almost exactly the 3rd zone, which is the zone that's right now the furthest south. The oldest structure is what we put here, which is a different structure than is across the street at Milliken Park, which is the typical high slide. We're going with more of a, I don't know what you'd call it, gym climbing kind of spaces, but not the high slide, which is what we've done at PRE, so we can mimic. There is, think about it, some political work for us, right? Is when we do what we do at one of the schools, we need to position the other school to have something similar. So that's partly why we went back and took a look what we were doing at Pioneer and are mimicking that. I think it's a 60 by 60. Won't be the what is it? Something in play or pour in play. Thank you. It won't be the pour in place like we have at the other elementaries, just in the sense that we know what it's going to look like in a few years, but what we have done, Josh has done a good job. His knowledge of playgrounds has been super helpful in this process. But have come up with a playground that we can reuse the majority of it in a new space. So we can take it out, put it in another place and reuse. And as we've moved in this project, everything we're trying to do, we want to have at least a lens to say, how can we pick up what we have and put it in a new space? From the furniture to the, obviously the paint and the carpet, those are loss leaders, but a lot of it we want to be able to reuse.
No, I think this is the right move, so I appreciate you doing the work to get it done. Again, mostly because we don't have to wait on PRE, so.
And we feel like it's going to be, especially for Pioneer Ridge, that it'll be a year's worth of construction.
I think last we talked, it's, it's a 12-week lead time, I think.
I believe so.
And so Josh was thinking 12-week lead, and then Jess Pioneer Ridge just said, you tell us when you can do each of the three, and they'll get by without that one until it's done. And so when we can push go tonight, we're just asking for, if you think this is the right direction, Michael will continue his work, bringing back the contract for you to sign with the bank. But this will at least allow us to push go, and Josh can we can order the equipment and start the 12-week clock.
My other question would be then, when would we start at Milliken Intermediate?
We won't start any work like playground stuff until after January. But some of that stuff we can figure out how to back end load, partly because of the loan, right? I mean, what you think about when we do that work, the 60x60 playground could go in next summer there. And then, so it's a matter of getting the stuff in, but once we know that, we can get that.
I'm thinking about timing, and it's funny because I was thinking about it last night when we were discussing the 10% handcuffs.
Yeah.
I was on the handcuff thing, I was thinking, man, if the library waited until we were ready to do something new with the bond, and the bond was that we were going to build a new building.
I said that. I asked them, though.
But what I was thinking was that space then becomes what the 10% is based on. So as long as we have the existing building, it's better for them to be. And that same thing here. If we start the construction at Pioneer Ridge, we're on that construction loan interest rate, which, I mean, it's 1% difference, but we'll be done with the Pioneer Ridge job. Or are they two separate? Are they going to be two separate notes?
So, how it's currently structured is it'll be one loan.
Okay.
That'll because I mean, really, when you think about it, I mean, we'll probably start doing stuff at the MMS building, I would assume in January, and if not January, February, and the finishing up the Pioneer Ridge playground most likely won't be much before that. So it's just kind of this one kind of.
I mean, it's not like we're going to be bleeding all over the place over that 1%. But you see what I'm saying is that we'll have finished the work at Ridge, but we'll still be paying the construction loan rate for that project while we wait till the completion of MIS. So
it'll be roughly a year, kind of when you space it out.
Okay.
Is there a warranty on the equipment or a span? I know Pioneer Ridge is roughly 22 years. 20 years old.
20 to 25 is what I've heard.
Is the warranty for, or is the
useful life.
Yeah.
21 to 37.
Josh would say, if he was here, I think he'd say 20 years, maybe longer if it's taken care of. I think he would say, as he has with lots of stuff, the maintenance on stuff in the district might not have been up to Josh's snuff, particularly given playgrounds and his knowledge of that. So I think we can assume the playground we're Pioneer Ridge is at least going to last us 20 years.
And do we know roughly what they warranty the equipment under? Would it be like a 1-year warranty, a 2-year warranty, under 5 years?
just,
We could definitely find that out. I don't know what playground equipment warranties are.
talking about obtaining grants for either PRE. PRE is probably the more likely one to get grants than the MIS one. Do you have a specific person and a kind of goal who's going to be applying for those grants, right? So we need to be specific about that goal so we can make sure that we're applying for the correct grants and tracking those. So do you have a specific person or committee who is actively doing that?
We don't have anybody
engage
right
in that?
now actively pursuing grants. We can talk about it as we move forward, but we don't have anybody right now that actively has what I would say capacity to do a ton of grant writing, which was a question the library asked also is, do we have a grant writer? And we don't. We have individuals that find time in their days to write a grant. I think, Michael, you sent through a pathway that we need to pursue. We haven't done anything with it yet, but try to figure out how intense. Some grants are pretty intense to write, some are not. So I think, it can make a huge difference in how much time it takes to do that, but then finding capacity for an individual to do that, I think is something we can look into.
I was going to say, do you think that would be appropriate for a parent group? And I don't mean like a 20-person group. I mean like putting out to the community and having 2 parents with a staff liaison who's putting their name on the grant is more appropriate.
So here's what I'll say about that. I mean, that's what initially started this conversation was the staff at PRE trying to find a way to fund this project. And it ended up falling on the principal at PRE, I think, who did her best work, but over the summer, it's just hard to get anybody to move on a project like this. So it ended up falling by the wayside. We might want to talk about, as a district, bringing on a grant writer, even part-time. I mean, that might be something we want to talk about, but this project in particular, I think having someone who could continually push it forward through some of these
like
grants.
a PM?
Yeah, exactly. And some of these grants, the cycles, if you don't get the first one, they don't apply again until sometimes a year later. It's a process. I think when we talked the first time, Josh had just been hired and had said he could take it on and then realize what his job was really going to be and have time to take it on. So I don't know there's bandwidth in the district, even amongst the staff at any particular building. Parent groups, the PTO at Pioneer Ridge was pretty active raising funds, but doing things like bake sales to raise funds, which for $1 million project is going to take, a long time. It would be challenging for a PTO group to lead a grant writing project like this. I'm not saying there aren't people that are capable of doing that and some that wouldn't want to do that, but expecting that of a parent group, I think would be challenging.
That's okay. I think I'm more worried about that happening, that there's no staff member who can do it or oversee it or continue on that path, and there's no parent group, because that's, like you said, you're also dealing with parents and their bandwidth issues. I'm more worried about saying we're going to get grants and we're going to get grants, and there's no path to get a grant because we don't have a person.
Yeah,
Or a plan.
I've tried to be careful in saying we're gonna get a grant, because I don't see a pathway right now to go after one, which is why Michael and I have had the conversation about what other options do we have. I think the point you brought up, Nate, is there's a need at Pioneer Ridge, but there's also a need in that we're gonna bring on another school in a year. And if we had a new playground there, before we do anything in Pioneer Ridge, when Pioneer Ridge thought they were getting new playground 3 years ago, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the perception that was out in that building, was they were getting one attached to the bond. I think that would have some political landmines for us to think through. So thinking about how do we do this now, I agree 100% we should think about, my brain thought about it with the question at the library, right, is when we have a grant writer in Poudre for that district, the grant writer didn't help, helped a little, but we brought on a team there that could write for grants and track and monitor, pay attention on the backside, because that's the other side of grants. Is they don't stop when you get it. They actually, the work may ramp up at that point, not ramp down. So looking at somebody part-time that could write and be responsible to work on Will's side or Michael's team. Adrian does a good job of what we have, but if we brought on a grant writer who's bringing in stuff, then having someone to track is going to be important too. That is something I think we would benefit from. We have a lot of opportunities here that I think people would want to give us money to fund, but it's hard to have. Rebecca's done a good job of going out and trying to find those. She has written a lot of grants. I think she's brought in a decent chunk of money for our district. But she is also busy when you look at what she's doing day to day. So I think it's more worthy of a conversation. I guess the question for the four of you tonight is, are you comfortable with us pursuing this? So we can get, I don't think it precludes us or makes it, we can't go after other dollars, but it means we at least know we have access to do the work so we can start making it go and not waiting for something that is possible but not probable is in the short run.
So for me, yes, I think this is the right way to go for all the reasons we talked about. The one question I would ask, and you talked about the perception that there was supposed to be a playground appeal as part of the bond. My wife, who I'll probably get in trouble when I get home tonight for bringing this up, but did a project kids chose equipment.
Yep.
Has that come into consideration at all when we're choosing the equipment, or is it just Josh got what was affordable and best?
It is still is driven what we're looking at.
Okay. Yeah, there was a video, there was all kinds of stuff. But I think that'll be good. And when it goes up, to be able to share that with, I think most of those kids that were part of that project are probably not at PRE anymore, but many of them are still in the district. So to be able to point at that, say this is something that you've had some input in, I think would be really cool. So I'm glad to hear that. So just my perspective, yes, I think this is the right way to go. While still looking at other potential options.
Yeah, because I think I'm okay with the construction loan, things going, because we have a need. I am still concerned about the collision of the playgrounds and the roundabout financially. I think that still worries me a little bit.
We got 150 new kids, we're fine.
Make that like 300, I might feel better.
Michael,
From your lips.
He just had a seizure.
Michael might think we're gonna have 150 if we had 300 on the books. He might think we're gonna have-
It does worry me that all three of these big things are gonna collide this year, and I'm just looking at Cash and Moon, I'm like, man, that's not enough. So like, it's gotta come from somewhere, but we also have things to do. So I'm not opposed to the loan. I think it's fine so we can get going, but the roundabout question is still out there, and that freaks me out a little bit.
We've got an update on that too in a second. So.
Okay.
I'll surrender my salary to help. Thanks.
Well,
For the cause. Any other discussion on this item?
As fast as the bake sale.
One thing I was just sitting here thinking about, and I may reach out to Ms. Tressler. She might be a good resource on this, but through the Rotary Club, we might be able to get a grant through the Rotary Club, through the Rotary District, because similar to the trust, the Rotary District is flush with cash that nobody asks for the money. None of the clubs ever ask for the money, and it's there for them to have projects. And they have done playgrounds. They typically have like a pretty heavy education component to them somehow, or recreation areas. And so the one that really comes to my mind, obviously Poudre Learning Center, that's a lot of Rotary District money goes into that. But the Paul Smith children's area at the Cheyenne Lions Garden, that is a Rotary funded. The Paul Smith area is all Rotary funded. And it's not a playground in the traditional sense, but it is definitely for children to have fun in while learning. So have you ever been up there?
I haven't.
Have you obviously you two have. Have you ever been up there?
We're learning something?
No, Smith Children's Center at Lions Park in Cheyenne.
It's really cool.
It's all out. It's all kind of nature-based stuff, but
Nature-based, outdoor-based, really interesting components to it that are really fun.
yeah. So, similar to what we did at MES with the GOCO grant and the Play 60, where it has, some structured play to it. I think Rotary would probably require something like that if you got money from them. But that's always something they always say is they tell the clubs, you have to write grants. Just write it down. Write what you want and give us a piece of paper and we'll write a check. Because that's how low the bar is set. And nobody will. They're like, yeah.
I mean,
We'll be first.
I think Pioneer Ridge would be an interesting one to do that because the MIS one might not get as much traffic as Pioneer Ridge. So having the learning component to that one in particular for just the neighborhood might be more attractive.
Just something to think about though if we go down that route with some grants. Because you probably wouldn't need a grant writer. You would just, I don't even know that you'd somebody who could coherently put words together. I mean, if you could even sketch it out on a napkin, this is what we want. And
What are we talking about?
I mean, even 10 grand would be
Yeah,
helpful.
probably
Pay for that 1 point.
20 to 30,000.
I was gonna say, you might want to reach out to the Pioneer Ridge PTO because they did do some fundraising specifically for the playground. It's not gonna be probably more than $1,000, but
It's not a lot.
something. So.
All right.
Good options though.
Yeah. You guys, any other questions, discussion on that? Let's move on to, I preloaded this and I was ready to just pass by it. Let's go to our next item, which is,
Hold on.
So, it seems like from the discussion that we do have a go-ahead to continue down this path, so, okay. I just wanted to confirm.
so our next item is the consideration of the Elwell Gymnasium Joint Use Agreement.
So since our meeting 3 weeks ago, President Wales and board members, we landed in a good spot. And in the agenda today, you got the updated version. I call your attention to two sections that I think are slightly different than the last one. The end of section 4, which reads should the school district and the rec district agree that the 5 p.m. may need to be adjusted should the program needs of the school district materially change. Should the program needs of the school district materially change, both the district and the rec district agree to negotiate in good faith to change the 5 p.m. start time for community use within schools. So that's one section that I think we heard help us in the effect that something would change. The second one is in 7, and this one we talked about last time, but didn't represent in the document that we had in the document or in the agenda last time, but the 725 for updates to the facility. So that's the school district and rec district acknowledge that the school district will have first priority to access the facility at 75%, and then as we get down further, repairs to the facility and replacement of facility equipment, and that approximate percentage of their first priority access, right, is so. Items covered under the section include bleachers, basketball hoops, other types of equipment related to the rec center and facility use. They don't include the HVAC, the roof repairs, the actual building kind of repairs. We talked through that, or we've been talking through that, and that feels like that's ours. But the actual whatever's in the gym, so that's the section we talked about last time, and feel like this is ready to move forward. And again, this one comes with, when we sign this one comes with a $75,000 check for Michael, followed by the $37,500 for each year for the next year. I think if there are questions, both Michael and I are ready to, Michael probably more than me, ready to answer.
I think that this new version of IGA answers my questions from the prior meeting.
Oh, are you guys, did you ask me something?
No, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Which was my question to ask, so now I'm all screwed up. Does anybody have any other further questions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the joint use agreement for the Elwell Elementary School Gymnasium between Wells Area 5J School District and the Thompson River Parks and Recreation District as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice President, a second by Director Johnson to approve the joint use agreement for the Elwell Elementary School Gymnasium between the school district and the Thompson River Parks and Recreation. Any discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagana.
Monica Johnson? Amanda Proctor? Yes. Nate Sano?
Yes.
Michael Wales?
Yes. Our final item of special business is the consideration of a supplemental budget increase for the building fund for the 2023-24. Is that right?
That is correct.
23-24 school year?
Last year.
Last year.
Okay. Mr. Everest.
President Wales. So this is not a normal request that I present to the board. In viewing our expenditures for 23-24, the 23-24 fiscal year, the building fund, as the budget is constructed right now, would overspend its budget for last year. Essentially the reason for that is when I was going through these last year to see if we needed a supplemental budget in last year, I wasn't able to count to 12 for the 12 monthly draws in for the building fund last year. I think I only got up to 11. So the projection that I had, I thought I had enough. I was short by about $700,000. So what I'm asking the board tonight is to increase the building fund budget for 23-24 by $700,000 to cover basically the June draw request for the RMS project. This isn't the result of any cost overruns or anything like that. Basically, we'll kind of be moving $700,000 out of 24-25 and moving it back into 2024. So the overall budget in the building fund between those 2 years will remain the same. It's just we're reallocating it between the years. That basically concludes my presentation for this, and I can answer any questions the board may have.
Michael, when does your fiscal year start over for the 2024-2025?
When does the start date and end date? Is it when school starts? No, it's July 1st. So July 1st started our new fiscal year, 24-25.
Well, if you're going back in time to correct some things, take me along with you. I have some.
Your request?
I do have some regrets I need to clear up.
If that's our President Wales, I would definitely take you along with me because I'd have some things as well.
Is the $700K for the retainage that you need to accrue for the fund? Or is it just the cash payment?
It's the expenditure for it. The retainage, since the retainage is a liability, as I know you're aware.
I just want to make sure we're covering it.
Yeah, no,
You're not going to have like a surprise audit adjustment where you're like, dang it, I should have asked for 8.
No. The retainage has already been accounted for, and it's just to cover the expenditure overage.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Why are yours so long to read?
I'm sorry?
Your resolutions are so long to read.
Well, so for budget ones, these are the ones that are prescribed. So I do apologize. But just think, Director Proctor, you can have a chance to redeem yourself.
I'm gonna read it slowly this time. Anybody else have any questions? Read it. Do I have to read it like be it real? It sounds so silly. Okay. Be resolved by the Board of Education of Will County. This just sounds weird to read it like this. Will County School District RE5J School District in Weldon Larimer counties that the amount shown in the presented schedule be appropriated to each fund as specified in the supplemental budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 2024. And in accordance with CRS 2244-105, the board authorizes the use of the portion of presented fund balances as presented. I so move.
Was that a motion?
I so move the motion of all of that. Lord.
So both resolutions?
I squished them together.
Okay.
Yes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Director Proctor, a second by Vice President Sassano
You have to reread it all.
to approve
Let's do what she said.
the resolution for appropriation and the resolution for beginning balance as presented.
job.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Diagana.
Monica Johnson.
Yes.
Amanda Proctor.
Yes.
Lisa Sano.
Yes.
Michael Wales.
Yes. That concludes our special business. We have no new business. Any citizen comments on general topics?
No, sir.
Thank you. No executive session. Any other items deemed necessary by the board?
President Wells, I'd love to just do a quick update on the roundabout if I could.
A what?
A quick update on the roundabout. I just want to make sure
Oh, okay.
the board is in the loop. We had a chance since last time we were together, I think it was since last time we were together, to meet with the town of Johnstown and the other two entities that would be part of the roundabout process. And I think as I just step into it, I think it's important to just say publicly, this is something that we were asked to engage in by the town of Johnstown. And feel like it is something that would benefit our schools. We're engaged in, but one of the things that came up at the conversation with the three entities, the district and the other two, was the timing of it. And the school district's in a unique, well, we have a unique funding mechanism compared to two developments. The developments, they don't have money coming in at the rate they would need to do this. And so they're looking at this as a challenge. And so what the town proposed to us three entities was to come back with what you think could be a payment structure, and that they would carry the whatever cost of it is until it's paid back, and still allow for the project to go forward next year. And so they've asked each of the three entities, Michael and I talked, and what we proposed from the school district's perspective was if we go forward to the roundabout, to take our share and split it up over 2 years instead of paying it all in the first year. Two reasons. One, that benefits us a little, but it also does benefit the town, and that it front loads ours, which might let the developers extend their payment plan a little bit more until they have Whitehall, which happens to be the same developer that donated the money for our school. They're not even developing anything right now, so they don't have anything. And then the other one is, we talked in the meeting about, right, their ability to pay. They were right where you were in terms of what the city is asking us to do now is different. The goalposts removed. They almost said it exactly like that. So I just wanted to update. I thought there would be a chance that tonight I would be telling you, I think we made a special meeting because the town may still want to put it in front of their board on the 19th. They don't today. When we went back and forth, they're not there. So I don't know how it'll work out with the other two entities. Both of the individuals from the town were pretty, if they were to try to get it to start right after graduation and be done before first day of school, the town board needs to approve it relatively quickly. So I will keep you posted, but I wanted you to know that they've at least talked about this idea of how's the town get more involved. I think it was the same push as you, Director Proctor, in terms of what's the bringing to this change, because it is different than what was initially asked. And so, so I think the town is thinking that through too, is how do they, so more to come, but I think that's at least what we heard. Mr. Everson, anything else you would like to share about what I just shared?
I think that's a good summation of where we are.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one, and I think you might have answered it last time and I wasn't here, I apologize, but, so it's us, the two developers, and the town that are sharing the cost?
The town is not sharing.
The town is not sharing any of the costs.
The initial proposal that came out was 25% school district, 25% Whitehall, 25% Granary. No, 50%
I was gonna say, that's only 75%.
50% Granary. So
Is that what we're still talking about? That,
what they've asked us to do is come forward. I mean, those two other entities asked for, particularly, there's about a $400,000 cost for design. So the push, I think, back was, how's the town helping with design, especially because asking for the light, in the end, the engineer that was there, the difference between the putting in the light and putting in the roundabout is not as much as you would think. Although it's interesting, because our ownership as a district really is only on Roosevelt. And the extension for the roundabout and the design right now would be, the roundabout would be developed for the eventuality of 2 lanes in each direction, but it would be narrowed down and developed with coming out of that only having 1 lane for however long. So that did make it a little more expensive probably than it been had you just kept it as is and put 4 posts in. And so, but yeah, the town initial proposal was they were going to take lead. They were going to go out and try to get grants to offset. They're talking about grants, they believe, of upwards of $1 million, but just like our earlier conversation, nothing guaranteed. But they were taking lead and doing all that work, and asking for us to pay whatever the end result was 50, 25, and 25.
thank you.
Yep. That's all I have.
I have two items. We've been talking about Milliken Intermediate. Is there any identity plans, like mascots, colors? Where do we sit with all of that?
We haven't done anything about shifting a mascot, and as I think about, right, what we want to do, if in fact we go with the Milliken Intermediate, we may want to keep everything the same, because ultimately that's really what we did with Milliken Primary and Milliken Intermediate, and then we leave a new name, a new mascot, new colors to when we open a new building. If you do a mascot and you do that now, then when you open a new building, you're going to end up having to take those with you. So I think those are probably deeper conversations that we need to have. I will say I was pleasantly surprised when we had the meeting with Milliken, how excited they were with it being Milliken Intermediate. And that allows us to take one school, split it, keep everything the same. And that's how we're operating for the time being until we decide, what we're doing, whether we end up with a new school. And you let the new school then develop the identity for itself.
And so when you say keep it the same, we would carry the Knights forward.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That would be my recommendation right now. We haven't talked about it a lot. We haven't even broached that with the team. From there, there were early conversations, but we didn't do any work around that. So, but I think that allows the identity to go with them.
Okay.
It allows us to operate kind of one school, 2 buildings.
The other thing, what's the status on the scoreboard, the video board in the arena at RHS?
Yeah, it was probably half up today.
It's in process.
So it'll be ready for fall sports?
I don't know if it'll be necessarily ready day 1, but it will be ready
Okay.
soon.
Okay.
It's in process right now.
They probably had today when we were in the arena, you know, it's a set of, I don't know, 30-inch panels. And they probably had 2/3 of the panels up. And it was somebody up in the box working on the connections back and forth.
Okay.
So
Okay,
it's
Cool.
certainly up. They've already moved. The other scoreboard is moved and in a different location and up and running, I think. So, so I was pleasantly surprised today walking through where that was.
awesome. Any other questions or? All right. Hearing none, we'll adjourn at 8:06, I think is our official time. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.